Hi everyone, welcome back to the Meta Lighthouse Aldebaran channel in our Dispelling the Myths series. About a week ago, Jason and I recorded a video dispelling the myth about the protests. And today we want to do a follow-up video since it's been about 1 week since we aired, and there have been an awful lot of protests since that time. I've observed a lot of people coming together because they want to see change, and that's a wonderful thing. So there really is a shift in consciousness happening. People have decided that they don't like what's going on, they want to see change, and they're gathering together with their voices and yelling out and crying out for change. So the question that we ask today, is this an effective means of creating social change? Are these protests making an impact? So we asked the Guardians of Light what they thought about this, and their answer was, not really, unfortunately. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that people are gathering, but what's missing is a focused intent with the mind and also money. Jason?
Right, if you observe the situation as we've been doing and kind of watching people gather, on some level, it's good that people put the energy to gather, so there's some connectedness. But when you really observe it and you look at the platform that what I call the bull announcers, the people that use bullhorns and have a platform, whether it's through television or mainstream media, and I just asked the simple question, why is not one of those people that are steering or patting them on the back putting up the money? They're all very affluent, and you would think that if this was actually a movement that was going to gain some real traction, one of these people would have said, I'm going to start by putting up 50,000 of my own money. And furthermore, why don't we see if we can, just like a Bernie Sanders, $20 from each person? So the mere fact that no one's really doing that, and you hear these sidewinder stories of certain celebrities doing things, but again, that does nothing either unless there's organization and mass scale. So you got to ask yourself, is this just part of the agenda to create noise, to pat you on the back and send you home? Why is nobody raising money in social media? And really, again, the ones with the bullhorn have the necessary means to come out the gate by saying, I got 50,000, I got 100,000. Why are they not gathering their friends and coming out the gate to say to the protesters, great job, by the way, we need some resources?
That really is the only way that you are going to create change. So the protest is a sign of people having faith and hope, but what's the missing ingredient? It's the action, which is the love, and that's the money.
Put your money where your love is.
And that will create the solution.
I mean, because the other alternative for the real solution is consciousness. You know, people want to blame an Illuminati or blame a few people, when the reality is there's just a mass wave of hypnosis on the masses. And the way to shift out of this racism, greed, all these isms is through consciousness. You know, to get to Mars or do all these other things, it requires consciousness. So if a being was in space travel and flying over the United States, and they looked out their craft and saw that we're just in cars still, that right there is an indicator of where your consciousness is.
Meaning that we're still reliant on fossil fuels.
We're relying on fossil fuels. And what's the way to get out of it? Not by casting blame on a so-called Illuminati or a bunch of sheiks that control oil. When you raise your consciousness and your vibration and you graduate out of these things, those things fall away like butter. No one can really hold anything over anyone else unless you surrender your power. In all these times, people paying taxes for all these years to Rome, people say, oh, well, the homeless, I pay my taxes. If you knew where your tax money was going, you would not want to pay taxes. You would be afraid of what's really going on. So again, unification, resources, And consciousness shifting is the ingredient to change. Or we're just going to perpetuate this racism stuff continuously unless there's real unification of consciousness, not just bodies.
So let's talk about unification of consciousness, what that really means. And part of that is understanding that we are all part of the one human body. Each one of us, we may look different, but we're all part of one body. And when one suffers, we all suffer. So racism does create a suffering within all of us. So what is that key missing ingredient? Is it the knowledge that we are all part of God's source, that we're all one?
That's part of it, true. And, the fact that, we get into this us and them mentality and mindset, which is a sign of surrendering your power. Now, of course, there is factual truth to those that have more power than others. But the secret is not necessarily even the money. You could even outdo that step by consciousness expansion, by realizing that there is no separation between any man or woman on a consciousness level, that we are all part of God, that we are all trying to get back to the garden, which is a non-duality world. And to do that, it takes consciousness unification, which leads to peace. And by the way, once the whole world is connecting as one in reference to consciousness, all other solutions become like butter, easy. We just walk away from fossil fuels because our consciousness supports evolution. We phase out of rubber to the road. We defy gravity even. Space travel becomes very easy. Things aren't blowing up and all these weird signs that are telling you we're just not there yet. So this is what's most important, is consciousness expansion.
And the controllers would want us to be separated. And you can see it through these protests. People are fighting one another, or fighting the government, or fighting the police. And really, it's about looking within each one of us and having empathy for even the side of darkness, because they don't understand. And
Right.
I'm talking about the racists.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have to coexist with them. And how do we go about doing that?
Well, you lead by example. You see, Satan's good at spreading lies and keeping the people separated and confused. I mean, ultimately, he doesn't care about black, white, or anything. His viewpoint of humanity is not one better than the other. They're all just equally the same and need to be controlled. So what better way to do it with separatism, racism, poverty, wealth, and making all these measures of compartmentalized places? It's a system, and it's a way of thinking. So if you buy into that system, you are a racist, you see yourself differently, because the only thing that's different is basically environment, culture, what somebody's brought up on. But at the end of the day, all peoples have empathic situations in them because they're all part of the God spark.
And if we have empathy for one another, we can understand what another person is experiencing and feel for them and want to help them find solutions to that suffering. So it really is the answer. Empathy is the answer to creating social change. And one of the ways that we're doing this as an organization at Meta Lighthouse is we created an 8-step program for super sensitive empaths to learn about their gifts. And in our program, we talk about neutrality and how neutrality helps you find solutions. So in reference to the protests, we find that people are not in a neutral state. And, we talked about that in the last episode about silence. Silence is a wonderful tool to maintaining neutrality. And if you can be neutral and not be triggered or baited by the behaviors of other people, you can find solutions more easily. And you can connect with your own guides and guardians to get answers from spirit. Because guardians of light, or angels in general, know an awful lot more than we do as humans, because they have a different perspective, a greater perspective over the human condition. So really, if we quiet our minds and we go within, we can find a lot of answers ourselves.
And furthermore, stop surrendering your power to a figurehead, a state, a government, a person that's on television. It's almost disheartening to see a powerful child of light, excuse me, but it's almost disheartening to see a powerful child of light surrender their power. Because look at red or blue, right? There's on either side of the hill, the grass is not greener. Plant your own grass. Work on your own empathy. If these people really cared about you, if they really cared about you, they would have already teamed up at this time period to put their money where their love is. You can tell when someone cares of you when they do that, when they put their money where their love is. They back it up with action. So these people, once again, that you're putting your power and surrendering, whether it's Pelosi, Trump, or anyone in between, at the end of the day, is anybody standing up saying, children, it's time. I'm putting up $1 million. No, they're not. So
Instead, they're funding programs to get us to Mars. Now, that just makes no sense at all. We have so many problems right here on Earth. Why should we be going to an inhabitable planet like Mars? Let's fix what we have right here, because this is so beautiful and so worth saving.
It's almost laughable that we as a species would want to run from where we are to go to another place, when the places that we have is in such a chaos and disarray.
Well, in some ways, it appears that they'd be running away from the human condition. And the goal for evolution is to have all people gathered together as one to move forward and evolve. And we can't do that when there are breakaway civilizations attempting to make colonies on another planet.
And furthermore, why would you want to have the cherry on top of the whipped cream when you don't even have the ice cream in the bowl? So I'm going to reach for takeoff when this world is on fire. Now, if you did it in a priority step with consciousness expansion and unification of love and empathy, the ice cream would automatically go into the bowl. We would graduate out of these fossil fuels and weird ideologies, and flying to Mars would again be like butter, because the technology through our consciousness would have expanded so fast that there wouldn't be these explosions, these setbacks, these pitfalls. That's just showing the people involved that you're not ready. Fix what we have. So that's what I have to say about Mars.
So, I think something else to look at here is the perpetrators of racism really need pity, and they need prayer, because their souls are suffering and they're not going to grow and advance. So I really feel sorry for them. And
I do too, because the reality is we've seen certain things in what we do with working with the lighthouse and these various guides, and there are very grave situations for people in an afterlife in reference to the choices that they make today. And they might subscribe to the ideology of atheism, or there's nothing after death, but that is such folly and foolishness, because your consciousness is stronger than your body. The body, the flesh, is only so long, well, until we use our biology to change that even.
But it's a physical shell to house our soul, and our soul is the most important aspect of our being, and it is eternal. So all of our actions right here and now will have an impact on our future. In other lifetimes when we return to the planet, we can either choose to grow and evolve and experience wonderful things, or we can choose to stay back and devolve and maybe experience even more difficult lessons and suffering as a soul. So we have to remember that every choice we make has a major impact on our own karma and the karma of other people. So if you're in a position of power and you're making bad decisions that harm other people, your karma is really needs to be looked at seriously because you could impact many lives.
I mean, it's so true. And here's another thing. Remember, long time ago, "We Are the World, We Are the People," as Michael Jackson and all these stars got together. I believe it was for Farm Aid or
Yes.
for farming, for agriculture. Where are they now? I know Michael Jackson is not with us, but where are the unifications of the people in music or in, and why are they not gathering? And I know you're under COVID, but why are they not putting their resources up in a unificating way to help the masses, to steer them better than a bullhorn? So again, if this is really something proactive, why are we not seeing the evidence of those that have steering and working with the so-called people? You know, is it an after effect? They come out when the concerts open up? Then what is it? Just to make noise to get attention for the concert? They should be right now putting out resources.
Well, I'm also concerned that they would be directing funds towards nonprofit organizations who skim so much off of their donations that there's not really much left to make a difference.
It's baffling. I mean, on some regards, we hear of people raising $500,000 for cancer, but from where we sit, looking from the inside out, we see other technologies that are readily available to help subdue cancer that are actually even better in the form of data than the people that are raising all this money. And my question is, God, you guys are raising all this money almost annually, sometimes monthly, and there's no change. It's the same old, same old. You know, so people need to wake up and know that there are solutions out there. And there are people working very hard to help shift consciousness.
I think people want to be part of the solution, but I think they're looking in the wrong direction, especially if you're looking to big nonprofit corporations, and I won't name any names, but they raise a lot of money for cancer through marches, walks, runs, bike rides. Where does that money really go? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. So follow the money the next time you want to make a donation to one of these organizations.
Really?
Because most of the time it lines the pockets of the very wealthy and it doesn't really go to a solution. Have we seen a cure for cancer yet? No, we haven't. But there's been millions, probably billions raised for that end.
Right, and for those that do know, it's not going to take all the money they've raised. We should have not only progressed out of the chemo and the cancer thing long ago, but with that kind of wealth and power, we could have also transformed and cleared up the way we even heal each other. You know, you could have brought in laser technology to the nth degree to really merge with biology, and we would change the form of how we even heal each other.
Well, we're talking about a broken system, and when I say a system, I mean all systems on this planet are broken because all of them have been infiltrated by people who have greed-based mentalities. And whenever there's greed at the forefront, there will never be healing and there will never be peace. So we take a stance against greed as a love-based organization.
We do.
At Metal Lighthouse.
100%. God is inclusive. God loves all, right? Light is universal. It loves all. Greed is separatism. It's I got mine, you got yours. And if yours is no shoes on your feet and I've got 10 pair, oh, sorry for you. That is basically telling God or source, sorry for you. Because there's an interplay between humans down here, no matter where you're from. You know, evil people is because they make decisions to be that way. Inherently, we are not an evil group of species.
But we're easily brainwashed. We're easily manipulated by the media. And there's so much disinformation out there. People don't really know what to believe. And, you know, we have a lot of compassion for people who are in this position of being confused with this chaotic vibration and chaotic information that they're seeing every day.
Yes. And don't let them, you know, they look at you as sheep. They look at you as stupid. They look at you as uneducated. And I don't just mean by their book smarts, because that sometimes causes more problems, is being educated. But the point is, that's how they look at you. So when you're gathering, if you choose to, and hold a sign peacefully or throw a rock, whatever you decide to do, they're looking at you as sheep. And the ones that are blowing the bullhorn, patting you on the back, are nothing more than another level above you, still a sheep, but they've compromised themselves. Because unless they're putting their hard earned, or easily for some, cash on the table, then they really are, what are they doing? Why are they showing up? You know, if it was me, I'd say, well, you're not, Mr. Millionaire, multimillionaire, you're not putting up any money, then why are you here with the bullhorn? What's the point?
I think this is probably a lot difficult for some of you to hear us say, because maybe you are a protester. Maybe you have donated to some of these large nonprofit organizations. Maybe you have taken part in a walk for hunger or a walk to cure cancer. And